Hello, I'm Chris Gray, and this is Reality Revelation Restoration. And I'm out here again at the same place I've been coming the last few days because it's nice here, and I'll just give you a quick view. There's a lot of birds out here. There's a beaver. I don't know if you can see him or not, but he's swimming over there. And I was here a couple days ago with my father, and we were fishing, and I caught one pickerel, 3 carp, and a perch. So it made it a little more interesting. But today, I think I'm going to talk about the search for wholeness, because it seems like almost everyone is on a search for wholeness, and they go all over the place looking for it. They think they can find it outside of themselves. They believe that they think they can buy something, or they believe they can, somewhere in their travels, in their search for wholeness, they're going to be able to buy something or add something to what God made to make it better, or to make them whole again. And I guess the reason why they don't feel whole is because somewhere along the line in their life, somebody in their environment, or there's many factors involved here, but somewhere along the line, somebody made them believe that they were inadequate in some way, through cruelty and betrayal. It always comes from the environment, because the environment that on this planet that we grow up in does not like innocence. Innocence cannot be allowed to exist, because it can see things exactly the way they are, and it doesn't judge. It doesn't judge. It doesn't judge. Innocence it doesn't have an entity from the intellect. It hasn't been tampered. The mind hasn't been altered yet to believe that there's a self within a self. So you're whole, and you can see things exactly the way they really are. And it's really nice out here today. I just want to show you. I don't want to be too serious, because I don't want to make this into a serious thing, because it's not serious. What has to transpire I can do this. I'm going to go all over the place, because I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to relate this message, because it's not easy to relate this message to people through words. But it is the light that's going to restore your wholeness. The light has to come in and it has to extinguish, eliminate, exercise, disintegrate, whatever word you want to put to it. It has to disintegrate that image of yourself that you have in its judgments, because it's always judgment that's the problem here. It's the plank in the eye, as Jesus said. Jesus said, before you can possibly even think about helping another person to see clearly and heal them, you have to remove the plank from your eye. So I have already been helped. So I can do these videos because I've already been helped. I don't want for anything. I need nothing. Everything I need comes to me effortlessly. I don't have to go out and expend an effort to try to get what I want. Or I don't need to try to uphold anything. It comes to me because I do what I'm supposed to do when I know I'm supposed to do it, and I don't do what I know I'm not supposed to do. I don't get involved in anything that I know is going to, that isn't right, that is wrong. I just don't involve myself with it. I do not need to rise to the challenge of temptation, because that's what it is. It's always a temptation. We feel as though we must rise to conquer it, and it's the exact opposite. It's the sinful nature, the ego. It's elusive and tricky, and it lives off. It can only survive through judgment and resentment, and it is so tricky that people don't understand what they're dealing with here. It can wear any disguise it wants to get what it wants. It's a real, all you need to know is just watch Forensic Files a few times and you'll see how this judgmental animal nature knows how to manipulate its master into doing its bidding and destroying the environment and the people that live in the environment. This thing has been around since Adam and Eve, and it has never been dealt with properly, and people don't know how to deal with it because they look outside. They go outside and they look for the answers. They think they can put it in themselves to make, like, they think they can ingest substances like cigarettes and pot. I always talk about the same things because these are the culprits that destroy your wholeness and your oneness with reality. Because everything, you already have the kingdom. You just have to settle down. And this is what prayer does. You have to settle down and get your chemistry back down to a calm level. And when you do this, the psychic pollution that you've been carrying around in your mind will slowly fall away. And when the psychic pollution, such as, to name it, it's resentment, anxiety, anger, judgment, jealousy, all the ingredients of vanity and pride. When we let go of all this stuff and trust that there's a God that knows what's best for us, then we are heading in the right direction. But it takes time to rid ourselves of all the possessions that possess our soul. This stuff that the sinful nature clings to for its survival. And it's always sensual. And judgment is very sensual. Judgment is, you think that they think that you think that this is the type of stuff it is. You think that they think that they're looking at you and they're judging you. This is what goes on here in this. And maybe it's true to a certain extent, but it's not real. It's true as far as being negative. But it's unreal. It doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is God. And God is our true nature in our being. And we can't enjoy. See, I come out here, right? Because this is pure. And I like to show people this stuff because this is pure and natural. And when we get rid of all the psychic pollution within our mind, our physiological aspect starts to follow suit. Because when there's nothing left, there's no drain out of the body that animates the plank, the object in our eye, the self within a self. When that psychic pollution is gone, the judgment and the resentment, when it goes away and the light comes in to replace it, you now are not compatible with the substances or the chemicals or whatever the sinful nature desires to keep that life going, that fake life. These substances, alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, porn, all these self-destructive behaviors, when they fall away, now the only thing that can come in to replace them is wholesome goodness. You won't want the unnatural, the sugar, the artificial foods. I mean, you can have a little bit of this stuff, of course. I myself, just so you know, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I take no I don't need any medications, I don't take any pills. So I'm coming from a real standpoint here. There's nothing altering my reality. There's nothing altering my chemistry. So I can stand here in good conscience and say the things I say because I'm not a hypocrite. This is what people need. They need to have someone that knows how to bring the light into their life. And it's done through prayer. You have to sit still. In the Bible, it says, be still and know that I am God. Because when you be still, now you can see, when your soul becomes still, you can see how vanity, the image, the plank in the eye, the self within a self, you can see how elusive it is. And you understand, you begin to understand how you cannot outmaneuver this entity. Any effort to outmaneuver it strengthens it. The only way is honesty. And this world does not like honesty. That's the only way you can dissolve this nightmare image, because that's what it is. It's a thing of the imagination. It's I can't believe I have to do this, but you know what? I do. And I'm not making fun of anybody, but I'll tell you, when I see that they're telling that people take an identity from this stuff in their mind, and they believe what these Svengalis tell them, that when the truth is evident that these people are being lied to, and think of what they do, right? They take an emotionally upset person and they give them drugs and tell them that they're screwed up. Now, any doctor in their right mind knows that to make people better, you don't tell them that they're screwed up, and you don't give someone that's screwed up drugs to make them more screwed up. This is evil stuff here, and this is what they do. Our culture does. The only way to take a person that's emotionally upset and screwed up on drugs is you have to separate them from the herd. You have to get them out of the culture and separate them from the herd and get them off the pills and the booze and the emotion and the people that are causing the problem. And slowly but surely, as the sun burns off the clouds, the sanity is going to return. It's inevitable, because God's powerful, and God's light is so powerful. God's reality in the light is so powerful that nothing that isn't real can stand in the presence of God and exist. Now, let me see now. I'm not sure where I want to go with this. I'm going to make it last a little bit longer. All right. So, all right. It is the stillness in the light that'll save you. And the stillness in the light is in your mind. It's not in your body. Your carcass, my carcass, everybody's carcass only knows what the electrical impulses from the brain tell it to do. And it will do whatever your mind tells it to do. So I guess I'll take this into programming, because when we become still in the light and our mind becomes still and we purify ourselves, we can see, we can stand apart from the programming. There's nothing wrong with the programming of itself. You don't need to try to change it. It'll change when your proclivities change. And what will happen to it is your programming stays, but it gets rearranged in a way that in a manner that is useful to God. So you don't lose any of your knowledge, but it gets rearranged in an orderly fashion to give you useful survival skills that are compatible with the will of the Heavenly Father. See, I don't rehearse this stuff. It's no good that way. I just have to come out here and maybe fumble for words a little bit. But it all comes to me. Now, when we become still and whole again, which you will, if you follow the prescription that these videos lead you to, you will see your programming. It will be there before your very eyes. But you'll also have a little space between you and it. And you'll smile at it. Because you'll see and know it's what it is. Now, the difficulties arise when we realize that we're conditioned to this programming. Because this is where the difficulty comes in. Because when you see that your body reacts to this programming, you no longer want to, it causes a little bit of a dysfunction that you're going to have to get used to for a little while until your programming changes and you become more still and you get rid of judgment. But this conditioning is like an animal is conditioned to its environment, to react to the stimulus within its environment. And this is what the conditioning in the programming does. You react to your environment in in a way that it's predictable. And it's hard to overcome it. So I'm not going to tell you it's easy. If this what I'm trying to show you was easy, everybody could do it. But almost no one can do it, or even wants to try, because they know they have to go up against what they made. And they're going to want to try to fight with this, because that's the natural instinct of an animal, is to fight. So don't be upset with yourself if you catch yourself struggling with the identity, the entity, to try to get rid of it. But don't allow yourself to do it. Just when you see you're struggling with it, just stop. You don't have to struggle. You're a child of God, and this is how it tricks you. Like I said, you cannot outmaneuver this thing. It's too tricky to outmaneuver. You just have to trust that when you do the right thing long enough, with enough determination and resolve, that you're going to come out the other side the way I'm the way I'm trying to explain this to you. And then you'll see the real culprit has always been you. You were your own worst enemy. I was, and almost everybody is. And they have to, sooner or later, come to the realization that they can't run and fight. Like in the movie, just to change the subject for a minute, this video cuts out on me. That's the end of it. That's all. It could cut out on me. They do when I'm outside doing this. But in the movie The Matrix, you saw, if you watched it, that the whole time that Neo fought with Mr. Smith, he tried to outmaneuver Mr. Smith through the martial arts and guns and all this stuff. he tried to outmaneuver this evil entity, Mr. Smith, who's a virus in the mind. And he tried everything. He tried so hard to beat this thing. But in the end, ultimately, when he stood still, it's kind of biblical the way it happens, because he dies in the movie. They shoot him. Mr. Smith shoots him. They left him for dead. But the love of his woman resurrected him. But this is a movie now. But it was love that resurrected Neo. And then, when he comes back to fight Mr. Smith for the last time, he realizes that the bullets Mr. Smith was firing out of his gun had no power anymore. And he put his hand up, and what did he say? He said, "No." And that was the end of it. Mr. Smith, he swallowed up Mr. Smith in the light. And then Mr. Smith, no, he dove into Mr. Smith and exploded. See, Mr. Smith was always, the ego is in you, and Mr. Smith was in him. But he changed the rules. He dove into Mr. Smith, and when he got into Mr. Smith exploded. This is what happens to worldly authorities. When heaven gets into them, I've seen it, they explode. They can't take it, and they have to get rid of me. But I'm not going to talk about me, because I already know what's up against me. But anyways, this is what will happen to you too, if you're brave enough to walk the path, because what you represent is death to the lie. So this is another thing. I know I'm going all over the place, but I know this makes sense, because this is it, folks. How beautiful is this? And the best part is that all this is, you're part of it all, and always have been. But the evil forces come in to us before we can get our balance when we're young, we got family members, our mothers and fathers, and outside our influences that destroy our true nature. They don't really destroy it. They cover it over, because they don't want you to see them for what they are. This whole world is built on lies and appearances. The Pope appears holy, but we all know what goes on in that Vatican ain't holy. But I'm not going to go down that road today. I'm not going to drag this out much longer. But the essence of what you're looking for, wholeness, and the energy, and the power of the light, is all yours. You just have to go back and do your homework, do your detective work, your spiritual detective work, and your prayer. And God will see that you mean business, and He'll protect you. Remember what you're dealing with here. You're dealing with evil, and evil is elusive, it's sneaky, it's weak, and it only has the power that you give it. And you'll see it. As sure as my name is Chris Gray, you will see it. You need to watch my videos. You need to tell other people about these videos. And When I'll talk, meditation is the simplest thing. You just sit yourself in a chair, sit up straight, close your eyes, and begin to watch what goes on in the classroom of the mind. And slowly but surely, you separate from it. And then the freedom comes incrementally, because you wouldn't be able to handle it all at once. And you probably go back, you'd fall back, because the light's powerful, and you'll see you have to give up vanity. It's useless. It even says that in the dictionary. It's useless. You have to give it up. The image of yourself within your mind has to go. Then you'll have, you know what replaces it? God. God replaces that filthy image. The image, it's still there, but it will be put in its place. I'm sure the ladies will know what I mean about that. The ladies all need to be put in their place by a man. By a man that loves them and doesn't use cruelty or brutality, or tries to lord it over them, or tries to pretend he's superior. He's not superior, but a real man, the way he was originally constituted, without the doubt of Adam, that with Jesus, the Holy Spirit, knows how to relate to a woman the way they should be related to. They're not going to like that either. But you know what? They like it better than a coward and a pushover. That's for sure. And with that, I'm just going to end this video now. But I just want to give you another look around before I go. There's a mourning dove. I heard him a minute ago. I love mourning doves. Now see, I used to live right over there when I was a kid. And we used to come back here when me and a few of my friends used to come out here. And when we were kids, we used to take our father's beer. And we would come out here and drink. We would take a few cans of beer and drink the beer out in the woods and sing. Stuff like that, you know. You know what? I don't